With the Edge of Fate being possibly one of the rockiest, if not lowest rated launches of any DLC expansion, main year expansion, I should say, maybe Ash and Iron is already a bit doomed ahead of time, and that's with some common sense connections and logic. So, getting into this article, it is basically everything coming in Destiny 2 Ash of Iron. Update, details regarding everything. Now, there isn't much that can be officially said, just based on inference, but supposedly this article has some stuff. But before getting into it, there's some important stuff we have to remember, is the fact that the Plaguelands was connected to Rise of Iron, and of course Rise of Iron was the introduction of the SIVA Splicer faction of Fallen, which was an entirely different sect of Fallen that had its own rules, its own enemies, and own unique things about it. At this point, the Splicers have existed in world since Rise of Iron, and they gave no consensual reason for them not being present at all. They just didn't. Which this would be another case of it took them so many years to add something that already existed in the world that it would just be better to not introduce them, which already would be a problem, because if Plaguelands are there, you would need SIVA Fallen. And as a connection, if you have SIVA Fallen, there's nothing to say bring back Wrath of the Machine. There's nothing to stop that, except Bungie supposedly is only giving us one raid this year, Desert Perpetual, which already landed. If there's only one raid this year, then Wrath of the Machine is not coming back with Ash of Iron, which as a standpoint is also a problem because we're in the region. If there is the SIVA Fallen and no Wrath of the Machine, even bigger problem. Now, Bungie, unfortunately, would also reduce this to seasonal content. What does that mean? Well, the Plaguelands could also be in the shape of the Dreadnought, where it's here for a season, and then it's gone when the year rotates. In this case, we'd have it for a little bit longer, because we would have all of the length of time of Ash and Iron, Renegades, and whatever season follows, Renegades. But at the same time, if Bungie hasn't really changed their ways, and they haven't said they did, guess what? Once the year goes by, everything seasonal with Ash and Iron, poof, gone. It's just out of the world again, which if we get another iconic DLC Destiny 1 location that is reduced to seasonal content and temporary and no patrol zones or anything like that, it would be another big problem right off the bat. But let's get into this article and discuss some of the things they supposedly say is coming. Destiny 2 Ash and Iron release date supposedly confirmed for a Tuesday, September the 9th, and that is of course barring any delays, as Bungie, they seem to need them more and more nowadays. Includes a new activity, exotic mission, weapons, and more, all available free to every Destiny 2 player. Now the Plaguelands is returning. It's official based on Bungie's word. But they say maybe SIVA, because they didn't say SIVA was coming back, they did just say the Plaguelands. So that is, again, a problem point. If we have the Plaguelands but no SIVA, it's like we had the Dreadnought but no Taken, or Venus with no Vex. They just go together, there is no arguments there. Then they discuss this new activity of Reclaim. Supposedly, it's sounding like another kind of Nether, which is a 3-player survival resource-limited based activity, which I'm not against a new Nether. It wasn't that bad. In perspective, it had a lot of kinks to work out. Possibly would benefit from having a standardized mode where it's, if you had the Nether, which was no health regen, random boons, and all that, you also had a standalone mode that is the Nether, but without the restrictions and had basic standard health regen and no light defense. You get what I'm saying? Classic Destiny and then this experimental version. Now, if they do actually continue and do this, again, they will have to work out the kinks that came with the Nether. Key point, when the Nether started, it was really rocky. There was lots of things that needed changes. However, they did iron it out. I would just hope they actually have it ironed out from the start. Then there's two more things to discuss, and that is new exotic mission and weapons. Now, a highlight of Ash and Iron is supposedly access to a brand new exotic mission, which is never a bad thing. The problem is at this point is the trade-off for variety, because in the years before, we would have, let's say for Witch Queen, we had the expansion, we had the raid that came with Witch Queen, we had the season right after Witch Queen that was Season of the Deep, we got the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon alongside it, and then we had Season of the Witch right after it that had, wait, was it Witch? I forget. Either way, we had the third season of that year, actually it was Plunder, that brought along the reprised King's Fall. There was another raid in that season, which was a little bit of an easier restoration because it was reprised. You could copy your own homework and just rewrite it at that point. Then we had the fourth season that had another attached dungeon, Right now, it seems like we get the yearly raid with the start of Edge of Fate, then Ash and Iron will bring an exotic mission, then we'll get a dungeon sometime laterwards, probably during Renegades. But then there's that 4th season, maybe another exotic mission. But the problem is, at least in terms of the last year, we had 3 exotic missions for every season, and dungeons and variety events and all that, it's just they're slowing it down when they really can't afford to slow things down in terms of content. Like I posted in my last video that where I was covering Divide's little video talking about how there's nothing to do. If we barely have anything to do after just getting a fresh new raid, then an exotic mission will be 2 weeks unless there's time gating, which then it's however long it's time gated, but then that'll be just artificial extension. And then the dungeon, same thing. It'll be however long it takes to get everything with that one dungeon. And then, you know, what else is there? Because from the sound of it, Solstice ain't going so hard because they removed Bonfire Bash instead of doing what players wanted and wanted an update, not the removal. But either way, let's continue on. During Ash and Iron, there will also be the epic version of Desert Perpetual. Now, my honest issue here is that they keep rewording and renaming things. We had Prestige raids at the start of Destiny 2. Now we have not hard mode. We have whatever version, master versions. And now we have epic versions. They just need to say hard mode again. We just need to go back to what we had in Destiny 1 where there was normal and there was hard. Hard had no revives. If you died, you stayed dead unless you were self-res. Either way, they keep adding all these monikers. We had the Prestige raids at the start that had the unique loadouts that you had to abide by, and then we had the Master raids that you have all of these nifty little things, but then you also had to be champion dependent, and now we have this epic, which, whatever that means, is probably just going to be more customized modifier loadouts that you can't really deal with. Either way, there will be additional content for Desert Perpetual in the up-and-coming Ash and Iron expansion. Or I shouldn't say expansion, I should say update. But then as well, there will be, of course, more Iron Banner. Probably, as it's not confirmed, and supposedly Iron Banner isn't even active right now. Iron Banner possibly returning in the future, so, you know, there's that. And I feel like this is inaccurate considering how much of power, but then again, more power you can grind out, another 100 points to go for, I think, as well as new artifact perks. Now, at this point, what is the purpose of resetting the grind if you're just going to extend the grind a little bit? Because before, we had been running on 10 pinnacle points of power gained every season. Now we have to deal with the reset power. We go back to 0 and have to go all the way up to 450. If the subsequent season after going to 450 just has us go up another 100 power, what is the point of the reset? Because at that point, then you could just add another 100 every single season, instead of resetting and then just having another 100 for the 4th year, or the 4th season. It just seems like Bungie's tasting their own tail and just keeps making mistakes in terms of deciding how to keep us occupied, because it sounds like not many people actually want to be kept occupied. They just want to have fun. Then, seasonal rewards, per the usual, more seasonal rewards there. Now, this point, I already pretty much based this on my own words. With the return to the Plaguelands and Ash and Iron, a lot of people are wondering, is Wrath Machine finally coming back? After all, the original Destiny 1 raid took place in that very location, but based on the official word from Bungie and on report, the answer is, for now, no. Back in January 2025, Bungie Principal Community Manager Dylan Gaffner was asked directly whether Wrath Machine would return this year. He said it's on Magic 8 Ball and will likely not return anytime soon. Got new stuff to focus on. Now, here's the problem. Bungie. Side note, aside from my usual rant, Wrath Machine is right there. If you have stuff to work on, you can give us Wrath of the Machine as a stopgap. At this point, we are hoping for new stuff. You are clearly developing new stuff as you're still using code names and secret things. We don't know jack shit for the future beyond this year. So at present, if you give us Wrath of the Machine, that keeps us busy until you can work out whatever new plans you got going on. So, Wrath of the Machine's right there. You don't have to theory craft anything. You might have to rework some stuff, but yeah, you could just copy, paste, drop it, and you're good. But instead, you want to work on your new stuff and just wait until later. Honestly, just putting Wrath of the Machine in would be good because it would keep us busy and occupied and entertained for a little bit while you can work on actually making a better future than just making the future and hoping you can have time to do Wrath of the Machine later, because you probably won't. But that is the end of the article, and as much as I may sound ranty, this is me trying to bring common sense to the table, because like I said, to bring back Plaguelands, you need to bring back SIVA, because there was no consistent way to say SIVA was killed. Yes, we killed the replication chamber, but SIVA still existed even after that. We still had the raid. We still had all these other activities. There were so many things to suggest that SIVA still existed even post. Plus, constantly using SIVA cosmetics, you know. But either way, with the existence of the Plaguelands would suggest the reason to bring back SIVA Fallen. Which if we have SIVA Fallen, then there is no reason to not bring back Wrath of the Machine. Which if they don't, and they do bring back SIVA Fallen, I have a feeling people won't be happy, because then it'll just seem like a missed opportunity, and then at that point, if we hear Bungie say, yeah, we just don't have the time, we have other stuff to focus on, like right there, yeah, it's not going to go over so well when you had such a easy win available, and you just bailed on it because you were too busy thinking about how the 9 are going to be relevant eventually. But with that, that is all I wanted to discuss with this article, going over some stuff, which as a total, I know Bungie's trying to slow down so they can make room for Marathon, but letting Destiny slow down and potentially die so you can fuel Marathon seems like a quick way to just close the company or have the company reorganized by Sony. Because straight up, like I mentioned, smaller expansions, release date, there's no questions. We know we're going to the Plaguelands, we don't know if there's SIVA, we don't know if there's Wrath of the Machine, we don't know a lot of other things. So far we know the location, not how long it's staying around, or if it's a patrol, but we know we're going to that specific location, a single activity that is associated with that season, as well as an exotic mission, which in the end, maybe is a few weeks of entertainment, then dungeon content in a future season, Iron Banner, maybe, the Perpetual, extension, but not exactly an update. It's an extension, not a whole new version. But then as well, like I said, Iron Banner, new power, this is all shortcuts, or, excuse me, it's all temporary fixes. This is band-aids on a bleeding arterial wound right now. Because if the issue is that there's nothing to do, this will barely be anything officially to do. A season with an 8-week story was far better for keeping people entertained for a while, as well as, you know, exotic missions alongside it, dungeons alongside it, potentially a strike alongside it. There's so many ways that Bungie had kept us better entertained in the past, but then they slowed down when we need to speed up. So, with that, that is the end of this rant, or this little common sense blurge, in my opinion. Either way, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. What would you think if the Plaguelands came back, but no SIVA, or in the same extension, if the Plaguelands and SIVA came back, but no Wrath of the Machine? Would you actually hate that? And I'm saying this for the Destiny veterans out there that actually played during that time, and would love that content back. With that, my name is the Mad Scorpion. I will see you in the next video.